Welcome to Pixelated episode 95. I'm your host, Will Saddleberg. This week, Damien, Abner, and I are going big picture to talk all about our current relationship with Gemini. From how we use Google's AI assistant and where we found it the most helpful, to our fair share of complaints and shortcomings, it's a great snapshot of where Gemini lives today as we continue towards next month's I.O. Plus, Damien tells us all about his not-so-awesome experience using Gemini with Android Auto. It's all coming up right after this. Grab your phone and take a look at your app drawer right now. You've probably found yourself relying on these same old apps and services since the Nexus days, and what suited you best back then might not be the right choice in 2026. Luckily, Proton can help bring you into a privacy-first ecosystem built for our modern age. Proton offers practically every service you could possibly need under the sun across every platform, including email, calendar, file storage, password management, document editors, and, of course, a trusted VPN. Built with class-leading end-to-end encryption, Proton's entire suite is fast, intuitive, and secure, and export tools mean you don't need to worry about leaving data behind on those other apps. Pixelated listeners can save 30% off an annual subscription to Proton Unlimited, which includes 500 gigabytes of cloud storage, custom email domains, a dedicated customer support team, and so much more. It's what's best for your current phone, not whatever you were using back in 2013. Upgrade to Proton today and save 30% on your annual subscription by heading to proton.me/9to5google or by clicking the link in the show notes. That's proton.me/9to5google. Thanks to Proton for sponsoring Pixelated.
So another week, another Gemini tweak. This time with regards to the UI looks completely different to what we've seen over the last couple of years. I'm not going to lie, Abner. I think this reminds me a little bit, dare I say it, a little bit of the original Google Assistant UI.
No, this is
almost like card style.
The UI is rapidly changing and it's still rapidly iterating in a way that I think is okay. So let's talk about the change. So this is right now the change to the Gemini overlay. There is, instead of two distinct menus, two distinct sheets, one for the attachments, the plus, and one for the tools, Google is moving to combine it into one menu, so that you just have one plus button. So I guess from Google's point of view, it's simplifying things so that users just have one thing to interact with. I think that's fine. It looks better on mobile than it does on the web, where there is a weird drop-down situation. Two drop downs in one pop-up menu. But the mobile one looks fine. But at the same time, again, the simplicity is the why they're doing it. So users just go to one place. And I think at the end of the day, the model, like in the near future, the hope is probably that the model takes care of and recognizes what tools you want to use, etc., etc. But I kind of do think that some complexity should be possible. Like two menus is not that hard a concept to grasp for users, I think.
I mean, I like the fact that they've certain aspects of it simplified. Like when I was talking about the assistant, I think the pop-up stuff reminds me very much of the old assistant where you'd have like the weather and things like that. But it's a strange one because it almost feels like Gemini like you said, is evolving at a rate at which we can't keep up with it. So there's no like almost, how would I describe it? It's almost like there's nothing to kind of pin your visual kind of memory to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like visual memory. So you're kind of used to it being a certain way and then it changes 3 weeks later and you're like, what the?
No, you know? It's inherently like inconsistent, right? Like it's if you were rapidly iterating on a UI experience or UX, right? Like it's going to feel even for users that are as technically adept as I think all three of us are, it can be frustrating when like the thing that launched 2 weeks ago or whatever, but it, recently is suddenly different again for like the fourth time in, however many months.
Yeah. It's okay. Like even as something as simple as the shape of the prompt box It's switching between a pill and this rounded rectangle. It's going back and forth, honestly. They haven't really settled on the UI, and I think it's kind of, they should be settling right now, but I feel like what's actually happening behind the scenes is that they're doing this immense amount of user testing and trying to get something simpler. But I don't know. It is changing too rapidly, I feel.
I think it does highlight how well was it the next gen assistant, NGA? I'm just remembering the next gen assistant, or the next generation, the Pixel 4 assistant, like how simple that was and how cool that looked. I think it's almost like Gemini can do so much more, and it's more of a lifestyle tool, isn't it? Rather than an assistant that does things on your device. So maybe there is just a way of like, we don't know how to deal with this UI. We don't know what the perfect setup is.
And to give Google some grace, for the lack of a better term, they are building something that can do everything. And that's all these companies are. You can do everything. How do you put that into a UI? How do you convey it to users that this can literally be used for anything? That the limit is your imagination. It is a generally hard UI and a UX problem, but at the same time, I kind of like the homepage should, at a certain point, it should stay similar or the same, like Google's homepage. And I don't know, it's just moving at a pace that's so quick that I do have concerns of people's that people want familiar things. That's just a basic UI thing.
I mean, I guess the benefit is that this is effectively on potentially billions of phones around the world, whereas ChatGPT don't have that benefit of people go to the website and they see it on the website, don't they? Or they go out of their way to download the application. Google's kind of doing this at scale on, as I say, billions of devices at once. And so I guess there's no real right or wrong way to do it. I mean, credit where it's due. I do think that the way that they introduced us to the Google Assistant means that there's some level of consistency there. It is this section that kind of sits above your navigation bar, and then it gives you the tools which weren't available with the Assistant on top. So it kind of makes sense. They've kind of iterated a little bit.
Question for all of us. On Android, do you open the Gemini app or do you use the overlay by long pressing the home button or swiping? I'm an app guy.
I constantly forget about the overlay. No, I don't forget. I just like it's like an app, right? And so when I want to go use an app, I tend to just dive into the app experience itself, and I end up not thinking about Gemini any differently, which is weird because, like, you know, I do use, like, on my Pixel, I use the Google search bar. I don't hit the Google app, but it's I don't know why that's different for me, but I don't use this overlay very often.
Yeah, and the overlay is the new Google Assistant. That is the Google Assistant remnant. Like, that exists because of the Google Assistant, and it's kind of interesting. I think my gut is like the most Google Assistant people they use the overlay.
Yeah. I mean, the overlay launches when you initiate voice controls, doesn't it? And I'm a voice control person because, like, most of the time I'm holding the camera, I'm messing around. And voice controls are always really nice to use for that. I do think, I mean, I'm going off piece a little bit, but I do think Gemini is better at handling the really weird, like, kind of half requests I might send. And I think that if there's anything that Google has definitely done better, and obviously Gemini is the key component of that, it usurps the Google Assistant for the kind of things I would do with it. And so that's good. But I still find myself, even though I do use that, going to the Gemini application and initiating a full screen conversation and just focusing on it directly. I don't know if I would love to sit and watch somebody use it who maybe isn't, like, as you alluded to before, Will, is technically inclined, and just see what they do. I would also love to know Google's testing methodology for this. Like, it's a weird one, isn't it?
I was thinking about this because I want to ask you both. Like, we're pointing out kind of obvious shortcomings to Google constantly refreshing or iterating on its current Gemini UX, specifically on this screen. What do you see, like, what is the argument for Google doing this, I guess? Because I'm actually kind of having, I think Google should probably slow down its public releases of redesigns for Gemini. And like, I'm, internally test as much as you want. If you want to do a beta program, a public beta program, that's fine. But I think at the end of the day, like, normal users do need some kind of consistency that isn't quite there with Gemini right now.
I think they're trying to find. I think they're just responding to user feedback. They're just looking at the user feedback, looking at the analytics, and trying to solve pain points. But
who's submitting that feedback though? Is it regular people or is it power users? Like I guess that's my question. Is like is Google kind of doing this to appease the 1% of Gemini users who are using it, 30, 40 times a day? I don't know what is an excessive amount of Gemini.
I imagine it's way more than that, to be honest.
Yeah, I was saying that. I was like, I bet you there are But like are they kind of responding to those people? Because there is an argument that that those aren't necessarily the people you need to make it as mass appeal, as much mass appeal as possible. But like I might not be. It might be regular people submitting this feedback as well.
Does that dumb it down though? Do you think that dumbs it down? Because I feel like
that might be okay.
Yeah, this is the thing.
To say,
how did they find that medium? How did they find that halfway house?
I've talked with you guys, and we've talked a lot about the idea that like I think a lot of AI applications are stronger when they do have some set of guardrails. I do think there is an argument that like you should, for your average user, you should kind of keep the ability to sort of not necessarily railroad them, but certainly give them like very specific examples and options. And maybe don't open up the entire, don't say like, hey, it's a playground, here you go.
This takes us to a much broader discussion. Like I said earlier, these Gemini, these chatbots, they can do anything, and that is inherently, ironically constraining. So there's the Gemini app, which is Google's goal to build an AI assistant for your life. And then Google has been integrating Gemini into every single one of its products. Where have you been using Gemini in, like, have you been using Gemini in Google Maps? Have you been using, where else in Google Photos? Because honestly, I'm doing it all in the Gemini app. I rarely use the Google Photos integration. The Google Maps one, I can see myself using it, but at the same time, I'm just using the Gemini app again. So where are you guys using outside the Gemini app?
Okay, well, I won't talk about Gemini for Android Auto yet. I'll save that because I'm just going to spoil it now. I'm going to be very scathing on it because I do use Gemini in the car. A lot of the time, sounds so lazy, Gemini in Gmail is fantastic at finding specific things. I'll give you an example. So 3 days ago, I remembered that I'd bought a Steam key to play. I can't remember what game it was. It doesn't matter what game it was, but I've tried to find a Steam key in my library, and I was like, oh, I haven't redeemed it. It must be in my email. So I went to Gmail. I searched. I couldn't really find the retail. I could not remember the retailer. It would have been about one of about 15. So then all I did was go to Gemini. I purchased a Steam key recently. I know what the game is. I mean, I can't remember it right now, but I said, it's for this game. Boom, it found it. Yes, that's not necessarily that useful. But then I can ask further questions like, for some reason I thought, how much have I spent on this website recently? Because I've been buying a lot of games on this website. Yeah. It can total them. It can pinpoint them.
Yes,
and for that, it's fantastic.
It is, but I don't know. I guess it speaks to how I'm definitely in that pro user category of the Gemini app, but I just do @Gmail in the Gemini app. But I do agree for the vast majority of people, it makes more sense to put in the app, like Will was alluding to. These integrations make sense. How about you, Will? Where else are you using it? Are you using Gemini in Chrome? Are you using?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, this is like a boring answer because you're looking for me outside of the app. But like the truth is that like the place I use Gemini the most is like is within Chrome, but typically it is just the, Gemini.google.com, which is not really answering your question, but like 90+% of my AI usage comes out of very random prompts of like, looking for, looking through my chat logs, it's like there's like a couple very generic like photo edit things where I didn't have time to do it myself for like a meme in a group chat or whatever. There's me looking for specific moments in a YouTube video. There's me looking up straight up like some Pokemon information that I was having trouble finding.
Oh, you could have asked me. I'd have told you.
Well, having trouble finding it on Google, like very niche Pokemon info. There's like a weather prompt, there's lots of like random, like it's really just kind of a like, if I know I'm not going to get good search results, or it's a thing that Google search just can't do well anymore, or maybe never could, I will turn to it. But that's 90% of my Gemini usage, which is maybe a boring answer. And Damien, your example in the pre-show or in Slack, we were talking about this, and I was like, maybe I'll get some inspiration for you guys. I mean, the way you were describing it, I knew you could pull up information pretty easily with Gemini. I guess I hadn't been thinking about that. You could then be like, by the way, total all this together, because going through my receipts, it's literally tax season. As we were recording this, we were a week away from tax day in the US. And, it means like, I manually went through and tracked all of my expenses right throughout various websites and then going through Gmail. And like, I hadn't considered that I probably could have used Gemini to at least dig up a lot of that information. And part of that is, I would probably want to double check it anyway, because you don't want to turn hallucination filled information into the IRS. That's not one place you want it.
Yeah, but it does. This is a good thing about. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like AI is moving so fast in terms. Yeah. Well, I mean, it slowed a lot recently, but in terms of like from where we were 3 or 4 years ago to where we are now, is completely different stratosphere. With AI, I think a lot of what Google and the others have, and I've said this on a podcast before, they've not communicated the real value and what it can do. Instead, it's more fear-mongering from certain sides of things, that it will take this job, it will do this, it will do that, which is a genuine threat. But I think in terms of like day-to-day, a lot of people could potentially utilize certain tools. Like I've been using anti-gravity recently I've programmed before, but I'm a very lazy programmer. I just don't like it. Usually if I have a vision for something, I'm making small applications to save time in certain areas. So auto watermarking tools, maybe certain things where it compresses images for me, rather than using a tool that I would potentially have to pay a fee for. Like you can do these things with specific tools, but you're not going to necessarily do them in the Gemini app. So I do think for me, the real value of Gemini is its integrations elsewhere. Using it with Xcode and anti-gravity to build certain things that save me time on my PC or whatever it is, or like I can build potentially a component for After Effects that automates animation tools, like rather than me manually doing it. Like, no, that does not look sexy on stage. It doesn't look sexy on an advert potentially, unless it's something really, really cool. Sadly, I've given you bad examples, but those are the kind of things where it's integrated into the products that people are never going to find out about unless they have a prior knowledge of it. Yeah. I do think that's why Google is probably going to emphasize the integrations with things like Gmail, like Photos, like you mentioned, Abner. I don't use it in those products probably as much as I should, because I do, like say, I can be quite scattergun with certain things that I have. Like I say, coming back to it at a later date and searching for things is really useful. But then you could potentially build an application that does it for you if you really wanted to, if you were really technically inclined. I think probably that's where there's a lot of innovation going on with regards to AI the last 6 months. And I changed my opinion quite drastically on it, that there are genuine use cases that don't like potentially damage the products I'm already using. They can enhance it. Yeah, I mean, it probably gets at a wider point. The way Gemini works is it has to be a one-size-fits-all solution for everything, because that's what AI is, isn't it? It's applied. So maybe getting out of the website, gemini.google.com, or the application, and trying other integrations might be an avenue to to get more from it. Maybe?
Okay,
I don't
to
know.
what you said, Damien, about how, like, yeah, it's not sex. The use cases that are useful to you, to each person, are not sexy and not broadly applicable. Like I've said before, AI is the hardest thing to market. It is the hardest thing. You can give 1,000 examples and maybe one sticks to a person. And in advertisements, like we've talked about, like the Pixel 9, Pixel 10 ads about Gemini a few years ago. And they were like taking a picture of what's in your fridge. That's the lowest common denominator they ended up at. And that didn't resonate with me. But there are genuine uses. I do think for most people, and that this reflects why Google is adding Gemini so hard to so many features, I think that's to so many apps. I think that's why they're pushing so hard. At the same time, like, Will, you mentioned using Gemini to find something in the YouTube video. That was with the Gemini app and not with there is that ask feature in YouTube that basically has that same level of functionality. But again, that's something that I don't use. I find myself taking the link and putting it into Gemini app. So it is, I do think for the wider audience, how they'll use Gemini is in these apps, is when people integrate them in photos, in Google Drive for the tax examples. But I don't know, like for the power user thing, I think as a power user, as somebody in this field, I know that all the advancements are going into the Gemini app what's the latest models are being put there versus in these other applications, specifically in these applications. And I do think that most people wouldn't care about what model is being used at the end of the day. But that gap is interesting, and I don't think it's something that gets resolved.
I have so many thoughts and I feel like I'm going to lose track of them. I wonder if we're reaching this point where the built-in app experiences, the Gemini experiences built into YouTube or Gmail, all of these places that we're talking about should start to, I'm not saying Google should hide that they're powered by Gemini or whatever, but maybe we are kind of, and maybe this is something that gets brought up at I.O., but we're reaching the point where these can just be features in the app instead of being like, we are layering AI on top of this. Like, build it as a traditional feature into the app where you go like,
it's just basically that. Yeah.
It's getting there, but I still think there is that like separation of like, this is the Gmail experience I remember, but also there's this layer of Gemini over it that I can choose to interact with if I want, rather than seeing a cool feature that, 10 minutes after you use it, you're like, oh, and also that was powered by, Google's Gemini LLM.
Gemini is a very good example of that. Sorry, Gmail is a very good example of that. Originally, the idea for integration was a Gemini side panel where there is the Gemini sparkle on the right side of the screen, and then you can open a panel. Well, that is still the case for most workspace apps like Drive and Docs and whatever. But the newest wave, as announced in January, is they're basically putting AI overviews in the search box. And it's
one step closer, basically, I would say, to what I'm really just envisioning. It's like, oh, we've launched, you get that press release where I'm not trying to say Google should downplay Gemini, but like you get that press release where it's a really cool feature being added to Gemini or added to Gmail. I did it too, in July or whatever, right? Like a few months from now. And then like, it's not until like paragraph 5 where they start talking about that it's powered by Gemini. Like I think we're getting to that future where it's like, Google has its models in place and can now just like integrate them directly. But as you said, Abner, you're going to be dealing with older technology a lot of the time, or like that will slow down implementing, future changes to these models, which Google is obviously pushing as fast as it probably can, which is sort of the whole AI race, right? I wonder if that's the other reason that like and broadly but certainly I default to the dedicated application experience, whether on mobile or on the web, is because it kind of pushes all of that data into one place and you can return to it and you can add on top of it in a way that like you maybe can't if you use like YouTube's. I don't think I've used YouTube's. I haven't used Gemini and YouTube, so I don't know how if you can return to those conversations ever. But if you go back to the video, but like, and correct me, you guys can tell me. But
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's nice to be able to go back and see that information and be like, oh, hey, I actually have like a follow-up question 2 days later, especially if you're working on, a project of sorts, right? Instead of just asking for entertainment purposes.
Yeah. It's an ecosystem, isn't it? The Gemini ecosystem is growing, and I think that Google is trying to emphasize it, and I understand why they're doing that, because you have to, because everyone's in, like you said, the AI race, and everybody needs to know that Gemini's at the forefront of it. I think for most people, they don't necessarily care. They just use the products that work well, and I think that the long game has got to be these products work well. If it's Gemini doing them behind the scenes, that's all that matters to Google, as opposed to the person buying the product or using the product. I mean, let me get into some teething problems I've had though recently using Gemini and Android Auto, because this is one of those things that I think when it wasn't marketed as such. I saw last year at I/O, we managed to see a demo of this running on automotive. I think it's Google built in now in cars. Terrible name. Should have stayed to automotive. And then Android Auto, which I think is probably the de facto experience most people will have with Android in the car. I genuinely think that the way that this was shown off and what we actually have now is such a drastic step down that it's actually really I've been so disappointed after using it for the past probably 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And it kind of doesn't mirror my experience using Gemini on my phone or on a desktop, because I think I kind of expected it to the stage we're at currently with the service, that it would be completely seamless. Like the mobile experience on a bigger screen in my car, I can do the kind of things that I'm used to. And while it promises those, it just doesn't. This is one of the few times where I think it hasn't delivered. It's a little bit like the early days of when Bard was previewed and we were kind of like, what the hell are you going to do with this? Why is this useful? It feels like that. And it doesn't help that the assistant is still hanging around in cars.
Well, what have you been using? Like, give some examples.
Okay, let me give you a terrible example. So when you get into a scroll hole on Wikipedia, you know the kind of thing. You're doing your research, you search, you hear something on the radio, you hear something in a podcast, you're like, I need to learn about that right now. Well, when I'm in the car, obviously I can't do that safely while I'm behind the wheel. So the assistant's terrible at that. But Gemini is very good at pulling up information from Wikipedia pages. I can delve into the subject. I'm one of them kind of nerds. So I hear about a sports player. Let's take, for example, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Any soccer fans, football fans out there who know who that is. I wanted to know how many games he's played for Real Madrid recently. Ask the question. Gemini gives me an answer. I try and get into a back and forth with it. Gemini doesn't want to do that in the car. Usually when I'm at home, amazing. We've gone live. I'm having a flowing conversation. I'm asking follow-up question after follow-up question. For whatever reason, it just does not want to do it in the vehicle. And that instantly has put it like it's increasing my road rage in the vehicle. Yeah. I think when I saw it in person last year, it was a sort of on-rails demo, but a not on-rails demo. We could kind of go off-piste a little bit. And it felt like this is the future of cars. And it understandably is. I don't think Apple are going to be able to compete with this. The ability to have a flowing conversation with what effectively is a superpowered assistant and get these questions, like maybe when you're driving. I've tried to do it while I'm driving as well, and this doesn't work. I'm near. We just had Tim Hortons has come to the UK in the last, 2 years. There's one nearby to my parents.
You missed the good era. That's all I'm going to tell you. Okay. It used to be good. I promise you that.
I know there's one on the route to my parents' house. Yeah. I have to deviate slightly to go to it. I asked, I had maps already. It was already running because I like to know when I'm going to arrive. I can drive there without directions. I asked for the quickest way to get to Tim Hortons on the way to my parents. Gemini's trying to ask me follow-up questions that just completely unrelated. Doesn't work, stops the navigation completely. I'm like, what is going on? The assistant obviously wouldn't be able to handle that. But I know its limitations. I think because I know Gemini can do more, there's a level of frustration that I'm getting here behind the wheel, which is just, it's just so irritating. And even little things like the UI, like I've had instances where I've tried to reply to a text message, and again, the assistant was not good at this.
No.
It was fine. You had to be very precise about what you said. It would take it verbatim. Gemini is pretty good at like understanding voice, like vocal tics that you might have, like you say, or whatever it is, or it will then format it correctly to send a message, but it'll cut off halfway through. And Gemini is really good at it. Normally when I'm talking to Gemini Live, I can talk for 5 minutes and it doesn't need to respond, and it knows. Whereas in the car, it'll cut off halfway through. I have to do several messages back to back. And that kind of, again, for me, defeats the purpose. It's supposed to make it safer for driving. Yeah, there's some little things there that definitely need work. I know they'll get fixed, but it has left a really sour taste in my mouth, having seen such an impressive working demo over a year ago. And then this was delayed as well, so I don't know what the problem is. Probably because they're too busy working on phone UI rather than making it work in a car. And the rollout's been long. I could literally, it's getting me aggravated thinking about it right now. So,
okay. I don't even know where to start. I had to go look. I remembered, I was like, when I was at Android Police at one point, I remember writing an article about how I was like, Gemini needs to come to cars soon because Assistant is not only bad in when you're driving, it can be like dangerous. It can be useless to the point of being dangerous where you know, the average driver, not me, but the average driver might be, that sounds like I'm being coy. I really do not use my phone in cars when I'm driving, but the average driver might be tempted. I mean, God knows how many people use their phone while driving, might be tempted to be like, you know what? I tried using it hands-free. I'm just grabbing my phone. Screw this, right? And like, I have spent, you know, first of all, I wrote that article almost 2 years ago. It was in June of 2024. I just found it. It took me a while to find because of that. Like, that's how long we've been waiting for this. Secondly, like it's if Gemini in cars is opening up, you know, even more danger, it's ending your navigation, which can be fine if you kind of know where you are or you're on, like, you know, city roads. But if you're going fast down a highway and you're like coming up on your exit or you're in busy traffic, you know, I remember I was driving the last time I drove to New York City. When we were driving home, we were on one of the bridges leaving the city. I don't remember which one, and Maps crashed. Google Maps and Android Auto crashed as I was like approaching like 3 different exits and I didn't know which one to take. And like, it's things like this that it like reminds me of that, where I'm like, that was like one of like the most like concerning moments I've had, because it was heavy traffic. It's New York City. You know, while driving, of like, oh, if I pick wrong here, I might be adding 45 minutes onto an already 8-hour drive. It's things like that. And the promise to me of Gemini in cars, the reason I was like, well, this is actually where I want Gemini, is because it's got improved, its ability to understand language is so much better than Assistant that I'm like, that is where I want that tool more than anywhere, is in cars. But then I need it to give, I don't want it to be just like standard Gemini in the way that it seems to be offering you, Damien. I want it to be kind of pared back, kind of limited, and maybe you can, you know, activate a bypass mode or something. But like, I don't want the car just like talking to me for like 90 seconds unless I tell it to, right? Like, I want I sort of want the pared down assistant experience with improved language processing, which was sort of what I thought Google was trying to build here. And in fact, I think I had even asked them if they were planning on limiting Gemini's, you know, response length after they announced this 2 years ago, and they said yes. It doesn't totally sound like they did that, but you know, I don't understand why you would offer this, like, especially after 2 years, this like buggy early experience that might not be ready for what is like statistically a very dangerous task that we all do every day, right? Like, you can't screw around with this. I'm frustrated to hear your experience, having not used it yet, Damien. Like, it makes me not want to use it.
I mean, another thing that annoys me is, I don't even know if I've seen this yet. I've spoken to a couple of you about it, and no one can really confirm either way if it's not the case. But the Gemini live call thing that has changed on phone, which looks great, by the way, the little pill. I think it looks fantastic. The Gemini Live UI isn't appearing for me in the car, and I'm going to put that down to potentially just a geolocation thing. Could just be UK, whatever. But it just shows the kind of like the how do I describe
waveform?
It doesn't even show the waveform. It just shows the little line that we've had from the assistant. So it says ask Gemini, which is fine, and I can get a back and forth conversation going, but it doesn't show the little call UI that you get for Gemini Live. So if I'm driving along and suddenly Gemini just stops talking, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to initiate you again, and then I have to go and press the assistant button either on my steering wheel or on the screen, or use the wake word, which I'm not going to say. It's these little things. It's almost like, I don't know, maybe I'm being harsh, but I had such high expectations. I think that's a problem. I had such high expectations, and seeing it where it is now versus what I saw a year ago, I'm like, what has happened? Like, has regulators stepped in? Maybe, I don't know. It could genuinely be that. It could be the safety in cars things, and they've diminished it a little bit. But when it works, it's still really good. Like, again, I can sometimes get a mini conversation going, and all of a sudden it just stops.
Yeah,
but
This is why I'm not that big on voice as the way to use Gemini. I type everything out. But from the technical side, these voice Gemini Live, the model that powers Gemini Live, is not the state of the not. It's a hard problem to do the voice real time voice interaction, latency, etc., etc. That's not on the same level as where the text stuff is. So that's one thing, but it's, I don't know. It's still this just feels like such an old issue to rehash, but talking with voice, I still prefer text, and that's why I probably don't encounter these cases that you are seeing with Android Auto. That being said, of course, it has to be in a car. It has to be voice. You're not typing with a keyboard or anything like that. But it is frustrating.
Yeah. It is. I know it will develop. I know it will improve over time, and that's the main thing. But I'm seeing people with the similar sort of frustrations in the car. But I guess everything's going to have teething problems. I don't. But okay. Kind of
I appreciate the devil, kind of being devil's advocate for Google. But it's been 2 years. And launching in cars specifically is just not a place where you don't want to be mostly ready. And even more than is Google's current experience dangerous? Let's set that aside and say, probably mostly no, because if it closes your navigation or something, you can pull over. Let's set that to the side. Google gets one chance to make a first impression with Gemini in cars. And if this is its first impression, that's bad, because it's going to, again, push people to be like, you know what? I tried hands-free. I'm going back to just using my phone, dangerously. Do not do that, to be clear. But those are and I'm not saying anybody's right to do that, but that's the social circumstances that Google is going to build if it doesn't iron out some of these bugs pretty quickly.
Yeah. I don't doubt that they will. I think the feedback is going to be thingy, and it's rolling out more widely now, so maybe it will improve drastically. It could just be that I was one of those early rollouts and it isn't working necessarily on my car head unit. So while I've had a little bit of a disappointing experience, I know that it will improve, and I know that it will reach where it was previously. I'm going to go, but I'm probably going to continue to put it through its paces over the next few weeks anyway, and then hopefully things will change, because like I say, it works. It's probably 60% of the time it works how it should. And it maybe doesn't help that it knows 60%
of the time it works every time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm goddamn, I missed that. But yeah, I think it doesn't help. For me, my experience seems to be better when I'm parked than it does when I'm actually driving. So there's a little bit diminishing experience there. So yeah.
So let's move.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I am curious about, you use Gemini Live on your phone, right?
I don't use Gemini Live. I have not found the utility for Gemini Live in my life, mostly because, Abner, I find that Live is best for talking, and I don't talk. I don't use voice commands. I'm not a Gemini Live user at all, and I'm not going to pretend to be. It's just I haven't found space for it in my life.
Damien?
Yes, I use Gemini Live way too frequently. I think I've talked about it in the pod before that I get caught using it by my partner, and she's like, "Who the hell are you talking to?" I like it, especially when I'm cooking. Is good.
It's so funny. You and I are like polar opposites on this. Where I'm like, when I'm cooking, I'm like usually listening to a podcast. Like truly, like it's just interesting.
No, it's
for me. It is the conversation element that's useful because, like, say, when my hands are busy, like chopping things or cutting things, I can ask questions. But to preface that, I think because I was a very early adopter of the Google Home and the Google Home Mini,
that could be.
My brain is hardwired to do that. And what I will say is that I've wanted, as the assistant has kind of degraded over time, it's kind of corresponded with my usage of Gemini increasing. Mm-hmm. So, because Gemini can handle the kind of queries that I want, where I'll ask it to play a certain radio station or I'll ask it to do things, because the assistant was so streamlined to, this is the voice request, can't deviate from it.
Yeah.
For me, I've always wanted to be able to deviate from it. So, yeah, I think for me, Gemini is a useful product day to day. I can understand for a lot of people. They have to find a way to integrate it, but Gemini Live will probably be my most used Google product of the Gemini era anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, the Gemini Live doesn't have enough phone control capabilities yet for me to really use it. It can, it's not can't. I'm still waiting for phone control. That's at the end of the day, and not there yet with the Astra stuff. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of sums us up on Gemini. I think we talked about Gemini for a long period. That's probably the longest in a pod we've done for a while. I think we'll probably see some really cool stuff at I.O. and then be blown away and be like, oh, this is amazing. And will be like, I don't know how to integrate this into my life. I'm going to continue being a Luddite.
Wait a minute. But it really is like, I'm still a little bit waiting for it's not that I haven't found shortcuts with certain tools or things that where I'm like, oh, this like minor thing that used to take me 10 minutes now takes me 2 minutes or something, right? Like those exist for me, but I have not found the, like, there was the pre-Gemini era and the post-Gemini era for my mobile phone usage, and I still kind of, it's not that I obviously have the app, but I still kind of feel like, this is just an elevated version of Assistant to me for the most part, like, which I might be true for a lot of people, but I got to build, maybe it's just building up that muscle memory that you have, Damien, in particular.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, I wrote something about the mundane absurdity of telling Gemini about your life, about updating it on things. It's so hard to talk about this because it's the personal assistant, putting the personal assistant in assistant. Like for the specific use cases, like just updating it about something that you're tracking in your life, and then like giving Gemini an update about what's the latest, and then it giving you updated guidance, let's say. That is the end goal of all of this. Like, in a way, thinking of it as an extension of Google Assistant is almost of the Google Assistant we got versus the actual vision 10 years ago. It's a great disservice because I still think most people's mental model of all of this stuff is based on giving it a structured prompt, like you were saying, Damien, and then getting a response that may or may not be right. You can use this as a personal assistant, like to keep it track, let's say, fitness goals in your life. You give it you say you want to do this, you have a plan to do a marathon, and you give it like your split times or something like that. And then it builds up, gives you a plan. You can, that is something you genuinely could not have done with Google Assistant. But again, it goes back to the idea that people have been conditioned for 10 years of these dumb assistants. I think that's what I'm calling them now. And it is so hard to break. I think in the past year or two, for Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, they've definitely broken that. And there is the power user audience and above the developers. They have absolutely broken that, and they know that it's going to be done for so much more. And the issue is getting other people, the general, everybody else to find out that this can be used as so much more than a dumb assistant. So again, it honestly falls on Google to start breaking things out, to like really explicitly tell people this is an assistant for your life. And they're starting to get there with past IOs, but we'll see whether this coming IO on in the future, whether they'll start being so explicit about it.
Yeah, and we've got that to look forward to, haven't we, IO? So, I mean, what are we, nearly a month away? 5 weeks away? I'm sure we'll learn more in time. I don't doubt that Gemini will be at the forefront again like it was last year. Maybe we'll hopefully get a bit more Android as well, because we like talking about Android more so than we talking about Gemini. I'm going to be completely honest, but it is what it is. Let's convene there, guys. We will talk more about Gemini in the coming weeks. Talk more IO, and everything else in between. But I want to say thanks for joining me. It's really interesting. I think it's hopefully an illuminating chat for anyone out there who doesn't know how to use Gemini and is wondering why it keeps changing so drastically and how to integrate it more in their lives. But maybe you've learned something as well, Will. But yeah, thanks for joining me. And I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Pixelated, a 9to5 Google podcast. If you enjoyed the show, we ask that you rate and review it on the podcast platform of your choice and help spread the word by sharing the show with friends or on social media.